In order to keep your gun running properly, it needs to be cleaned on a regular basis. Now, what regular basis means depends on the particular gun. Some guns may need to be cleaned every couple hundred rounds. Some handguns can go longer. And certainly if you're not going to shoot the gun for a while, you're going to put it back in the safe, you definitely want to clean it before you do that, no matter how many rounds you've shot. If you check the owner's manual that came with your handgun, it'll give you a good idea about how many rounds you can shoot between cleanings. Because cleaning any kind of firearm involves using chemical solvents, it's always a good idea to do it outside so you're not breathing the stuff in. In addition, it's always a good idea to wear safety glasses because, again, you're using liquid chemical solvents and you don't want them splashing into your eye. In order to clean your handgun, you need to field strip it down to its major subassemblies. And the way you do that is with the gun pointing in a safe direction and make sure it's completely empty. With this semi-automatic pistol, I make sure there's no magazine in the mag well. I lock the slide back, visually and physically inspect the gun to make sure there's no rounds in the gun at all, and then I can proceed to take down the gun. Now, each firearm and each handgun has a different set of steps that you go through to field strip it, to take it down to its major component subassemblies. This particular firearm, with the slide locked back, I do a couple of manipulations with the takedown lever, and the frame will now separate from the slide. I then take the recoil spring out, remove the barrel from the slide, and I now have the 4 major subassemblies of this Smith & Wesson M&P, and I can clean it. As we said, each particular firearm is a little bit different in terms of how you take it down. And again, those takedown instructions are in the manual that came with your gun. Now, there's a distinction here between what we've done in taking the gun down to its major subassemblies for cleaning, which is called field stripping, and what's called detail stripping. There are still subassemblies within each of these major parts. And taking the gun down farther, so you take apart the subassemblies within each of these major parts, is called detail stripping. And that's not anything you need to do for cleaning, and that's something only a qualified armorer or gunsmith should do. You will need some chemical solutions to clean your firearm. And if you look in your local gun store or online, you'll see all kinds of solutions and liquids marketed up towards cleaning firearms. But the thing to remember about a handgun is that it is not a precision rifle. Many of the products you'll find in your local gun store are targeted at precision rifles. With regards to a handgun, all you really need is a single solution of the type called CLP, and CLP stands for Cleaner Lubricant Preservative. And CLP solutions do all 3 of those functions for you. They will clean your firearm, they will lubricate it, and they will preserve its finish. The most common kind of CLP that you'll probably find in your local gun store is called break-free. Break-free has been around for decades, it's been used by the military for a long time, and it's got a real good track record. If you aren't in any kind of harsh environment, a CLP like break-free will work just fine for you. A new CLP that's coming on strong these days is called Gunzilla. The advantage of Gunzilla is that it's made from all natural ingredients and it's less potentially harmful. A lot of people think there's some mystery or some great complexity to cleaning a firearm. Well, with a precision rifle, it can be a little tricky. With a handgun, it's really very simple. The process of firing the gun leaves some loose gunpowder or gunpowder residue on the various parts of the gun. And if you don't clean your handgun, it could jam it. And it causes carbon to adhere to various parts on the handgun. And what you're doing with a cleaning product like a CLP is simply loosening those deposits and then removing them by mopping them away. You can clean the major subassemblies of your handgun in any particular order. Most people like to start with the barrel first, so we'll move all these other subassemblies off to the side, leaving the barrel here. In order to clean the barrel, you're going to need a barrel brush, something to scrub the barrel with. And brushes come in 2 forms. They come in these steel forms called tornado brushes, and they come in these more traditional bristle forms. And whichever one you use, it doesn't really matter. What you want to do then is take the barrel brush that is the right size, sized for your barrel. So since this is a 9mm pistol, we're using a 9mm brush. And screw it in to your cleaning rod. Now, the thing to be aware of is there are a couple of different thread systems out there in terms of cleaning supplies. So you want to make sure that when you're buying your brush and your rods, you pretty much stick to the same brand. Otherwise, you could wind up with a brush that doesn't work or doesn't fit into the rod you're using. The easiest way to clean your barrel is to take your bottle of CLP, put a few drops in the breech end of the barrel. You could clean it from either end, but the breech end is far less likely to damage your barrel. Take your brush and scrub the inside of that barrel. You want to go back and forth, a dozen, 20 times maybe. By the time you've done that, you should have loosened up any residue that's in that barrel. So now that you've scrubbed your barrel, you need to mop up the excess CLP that still remains in there and the residue that it contains. But first you want to clean the brush that you used to clean that barrel. So grab an old rag, basically just rub the brush over it a few times, and the brush will be clean enough to use next time. Now, in order to mop up the residue that's in there, you want to remove this cleaning brush, set it aside, and screw on to your cleaning rod a tool called a jag. These jags are sized for each individual caliber, so make sure you are using the right caliber jag. And to this jag, you take a cleaning patch and affix it to it like that. You then take your cleaning patch on the jag, insert it into the breech end of the barrel, and push it through, and you can see that it comes out of the barrel full of excess CLP and some of the black residue that the CLP has removed from the inside of the barrel. You then repeat that process until, using a new cleaning patch each time, until the cleaning patch comes out just about clean. I mean, it'll never come out perfectly clean, but till it comes out just about clean. Now, there is a little trick that I like to use. I find these jags a little cumbersome. What I do is I use the smallest caliber copper bristle brush barrel brush that I can buy at my local gun store. And it's usually a 17 caliber brush. So it's a pretty small diameter. And I just take some old cut up t-shirts, and the coarse copper bristles will grab onto the old t-shirt, and I swab this through my barrel like this. And you can see that the old t-shirt has now come out quite clean, and that's plenty clean enough for a handgun barrel. Now that we've cleaned the inside of the barrel, we need to clean the outside of the barrel. In order to do that, you're probably going to want something called a gun cleaning brush, sometimes called an M16 brush. It looks a little bit like a toothbrush, except it has this other end on it where the bristles are very small and very narrow, and that's great for getting into the small parts of on all the different subassemblies on your handgun. The easiest way to do that is to put a couple of drops of CLP on your brush and brush the outside of the barrel, particularly paying attention to the feed ramp area right there, which tends to get a lot of carbon buildup. So scrub that down pretty good. And while you're at it, just go ahead and brush the whole outside of the barrel. This part of the barrel doesn't tend to get too dirty, but it's a good idea to just brush it. Brush all these parts. And at that point, you've probably loosened up as much as you need to whatever is on the outside of your barrel. And now, of course, you need to clean the outside of your barrel to mop up that excess CLP and its residue. So using a rag, just wipe it down, using a little bit of pressure. And because some of that CLP that you just used to clean the outside of the barrel may have leaked into the inside, I like to give it one last swab with my little makeshift tool here, just making sure that's completely clean. And I can also use this same tool to get in the little crevices and mop it up that I couldn't get to with just my bare hands. We'll clean the slide assembly next. On the slide, there's a couple of areas you want to pay attention to. You want to make sure you get these grooves or these slots pretty clean, because these grooves, these slots, are what the rails on the frame ride on and allows the slide to reciprocate. You want to clean this area here that houses the fire assembly, and you want to clean this area here called the breech face. So in order to clean the slide, Clean your brush a little bit, just rub it on a clean cloth. You can use that same brush, put a few more drops of your CLP on there, and now you want to start scrubbing the areas we talked about. Just go ahead and scrub. There's no particular way you need to do this, except for the breech face. When you're cleaning the breech face, you want to make sure that the slide is pointing down, that is, the firing pin is pointing down, and you clean in this manner, because if I was cleaning with the firing pin facing up, when I'm brushing over that firing pin, some of the cleaner could drop down into the firing pin channel, and that's very bad. That could gum up the firing pin. It's important to leave that firing pin channel dry, so let gravity work with you as you're cleaning that breech face, and make sure the breech face is pointing down when you're scrubbing it. You can just start with a clean rag. Again, because you haven't mopped up any of the liquid that's on the slide assembly, make sure the breech face is still pointing down. Go ahead, maybe clean that breech face first, or mop it up first, so now it doesn't matter which way the slide is oriented. Now you can turn it upside down and no liquid is going to drop into that firing pin channel. Just get as much as you can with a dry rag first, and you can see the crap, the gummy residue that is taken off the slide. Now you want to do this, you want to clean, mop it up with a little more detail.